Okay, all right. So it is 9:33 a.m. on October 8th. This is the subcommittee meeting for the Weston Board of Education Curriculum Committee. Let's see, our purpose of the meeting is to collaborate between Board of Education, the stakeholders, the school board leadership, and discuss all aspects of curriculum, instruction, school culture, and climate in the Weston Public Schools. Our virtual norms, our cameras should remain on at all times. Mute your microphone, just so we don't get background noise. Be present and engaged, seek to understand, and keep discussion and comments to topic, because we are a chatty bunch and we're heavily invested in our students. So we can get off topic very easily. It's very enjoyable, but we know that we have to get everyone back to their other responsibilities. So with that, I will ask for I think the first order of business is the meeting minutes approval. Let me just pull up board book. Give me a moment. Okay, so there's two sets of meeting minutes. I believe, Chad, you were not present, so I think it's pretty much up to Lisa and I. So I did take a look at them before our meeting today. We have two sets of meeting minutes to approve. There's the June 2025 meeting and our September 2025 meeting. Lisa, have you had a chance to take a look at those?
Yes, I took a look and they're fine. They're good. They're excellent.
Okay.
Okay,
I
so
did too.
But I was there for the September one. Vote for the September one.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You are correct. Actually, I think I remember you were in your car then as well.
well,
You do
not
a lot of
now.
meetings from the car. That's a dedicated Board of Ed member. Okay, so with that, I will make a motion to approve the minutes of our subcommittee meeting for June and September. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so it's unanimous. And at this point, then I will hand it over to you, Tina.
Sounds great. Good morning,
Oh, wait,
everyone.
by the way, we have to say, oh no, sorry. Julie's not on this meeting. I was gonna say, we have to make sure we acknowledge Julie. I get confused on the meetings that Julie's on. So
Yes, Dr.
continue.
Gavoni, yes.
Dr. Gavoni, right? I saw Dr. Henkel and I
Yes.
remember, oh yes, now we have another
Yes.
doctor in our group meetings, but this is not this one. This will be, we'll save that for the regular Board of Ed meeting.
That's right. It'll be a month of celebrations for her,
Yeah.
for sure, every time that we see her. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for that great opening, David. We're always excited to come together monthly and talk about some of the great work that's happening throughout the district in Weston and provide you with some advancements in curriculum and programming that are evolving since the last time that we meet. As we typically do, we do have a list of running topics for future meetings, and David and I, as well as Chad and Lisa, will always have an opportunity to add some additional topics as we go on. This month in particular, we have some two new initiatives that we, based on the timing, was important for us to use this opportunity to talk a little bit about the No Place for Hate initiative that Principal Bluestein at Weston Middle School has been leading and working tirelessly to integrate that program and involve students and staff and families in that great work that's happening there. And also, as you may have read in Superintendent Forty's newsletter this past week, we are officially rolling out our anonymous reporting systems through Sandy Hook Promise. So we wanted to take an opportunity to, while many of you are aware of these two huge initiatives that are starting at the middle school and throughout the district, we wanted to take today's meeting to rinse and repeat a little bit of some of that information so that it's at the forefront of everyone's mind and be able to ask some questions, given the fact that we are now front and center with those two initiatives. So we're going to start with Principal Bluestein. And I'm going to pull up his presentation, and he's going to kick us off with talking a little bit about the No Place for Hate program and the way in which he and his team is rolling it out at the middle school. So Jason, I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to just give me 2 seconds to pull up the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Dr. Henkel. We'll just wait for the slides to come up. Okay, great. So yeah, so we are excited to, we've already begun our work with No Place for Hate this year. What I'd like to do today is just take you through a little bit of a timeline for what this will look like for the year and what's sort of happened already. Um, and then talk about just some of the big ideas around how No Place for Hate operates and some of the things that the sort of the expectations for the school in terms of how we implement this. And this comes directly from the organization itself. So what I will tell you is it's very student driven, which has been really exciting. And we have a lot, in fact, when I'm done with this meeting, we have a meeting for where we have a lot of students coming together, and we're going to begin some planning work, upcoming planning work. So we're excited about that. But just in terms of a timeline, so just to go backwards for a minute, in spring 2025, before I arrived at Weston Middle School, there was a steering committee that was formed. That steering committee still does meet. It's made up of staff, parents, and students. And they had some initial training last spring as well to sort of learn a little bit more about what the program was, um, and get ready for this year. Um, so during the week of September 15th through the 19th, we had Pledge Week here, which I can talk a little bit more about in a minute. Typically, the pledge is it's usually a day thing, but our students wanted to make a week out of it, so we did it over a few days, and I can talk again about what we did during that week. But the first thing that you do as part of No Place for Hate is every student has to understand the pledge and then has to sign off. They have to sign it. We also got adults involved in that as well. Our goal is to do 3 events during the year. You have to do a minimum of 3. You can do more than that, but we thought because we haven't done this before, we would start with 3 and see how those go and learn from that experience. One is a fall event. We're looking. We're going to talk about this today, but I think we're looking at the first week in November for our first event. One is more of a winter-based event, which we'll do in January, February, and one in the spring. After you do all 3 events, and there's some paperwork involved in that, you then apply for designation. So basically, you do all of this paperwork that sort of explains what you've done. You have to adhere to some of the principles of the No Place for Hate initiative, and then it gets reviewed. And assuming we do all of those things correctly, which they do give you feedback as you go, and obviously that's our goal. We would then be designated a No Place for Hate school sometime in the spring, and then and celebrate as part of that. You can go to the next slide.
And just to pause here for a second,
Yeah.
Jason. So the pictures, I know they may be a little hard to see. Part of the work, if you actually walked up to the middle school, where if you want to talk a little bit about they're probably not there anymore, right? Because of the rain today, it's probably all washed out. But
Some of them last, yeah. Some of them will be there for a while. This was actually, so what you see here is an activity that so one of the things that we're going to do as a school is we have like different school climate things happening simultaneously. So one is we have something called Connect, which is it's a biweekly advisory period. So we have that. We also are starting to do what I would call community meetings every other month, where we come together as a school and talk a little bit about SOAR. So SOAR is an acronym at the middle school that stands for Safety, Ownership, Attitude, and Respect. And we kind of want to do some teaching around what that means and how do we do it, but do it in a way that's fun for kids as well. And then we also have the No Place for Hate initiative. So last week we had a Connect activity that Patty Powers put together that really, I mean, you'll see that there's a No Place for Hate thing there, but it looked to connect together a bunch of different things that we're doing, including No Place for Hate. So students did these chalk signs all throughout the front and the back of the building, where they were like messages of hope, quotes that they responded to, keywords that sort of support our values. So it was really neat. I mean, the kids were really engaged, and they created some cool artwork. And I included No Place for Hate because unprompted, a group of students did that. So that wasn't necessarily prompted, but they did do that. So I thought that was important to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and that's why I put it up here too, because I had happened to walk up to go visit the school and noticed it as well. And um, the students are starting to make the connections themselves between all these different opportunities around being connected, their well-being, a sense of belonging, around climate. And I thought this was pretty unique because if you actually can, I know it's hard to see, but at the center of the universe, because it's a universe, it's galactic, Gil Galactic Gondadores, and the Spanish class that went out there, the girls, and they made a solar system. And at the center of that galaxy is Weston Middle School. And around the outside, they put words or statements around the power of connection, kindness, inclusivity, sharing. So, and No Place for Hate was there too. So the kids are starting to make the connection between all of these opportunities, as Jason said, to their school, to each other, and why all of these pieces are so important to the climate and the well-being of not only the school, but of each other, right? So I thought it was very exciting. That's why I put it up there too.
Yeah, it was a great event, definitely. Next slide.
Can you see it?
Not yet. No, the next slide should be, yeah, there we go. So the actual pledge itself is on the right-hand side. So that's something that we students, we reviewed with them, like, and went through a little bit about what it means and what the expectation is. And then they went through an activity where they basically signed, and there's some photos on the next page, which I'll get to in a second. We can kind of see more of a visual of this. But essentially, we did it over a week. And one thing that we did was we had assemblies by team that were planned and led by students, where they introduced what the pledge was, talked a little bit about the work we were going to be doing that week to sign the pledge, and the activity itself, and why we were doing it. And that was planned and led by students, facilitated. The planning was facilitated by adults, but the kids were the ones that did the vast majority of the talking in front of their classmates. And then, so that was on one day. On the second day, we did the actual pledges themselves. So they were created during Connect Advisory. Students did them and staff did them. And it's really involves signing your name, and we had different things that they could sign, which again you'll see in a second. But it was about signing your name. Some students wrote a message on it. And the other activity that we did is we talked a little bit about language and things that we want. The kids had this idea that it was things that we want to make sure that we keep doing at our school. And then things that we recycle. They kind of had this idea of recycling, and they made a connection there. And things that we want to trash, like words and deeds that we want to make sure that aren't here anymore. So that was kind of a creative way that they did to kind of facilitate some discussion around some of the things that are positive, and some of the things we want to avoid, obviously. And then the third component, which was on a third day, was the intentional posting of pledges. So we were very thoughtful about, we didn't want to just like have the kids write all this and then like the teachers would just put their pledges up. The kids intentionally, by team, went out to this bulletin board and posted the actual pledge themselves. They actually taped it or stapled it to a bulletin board, and they're all up there now. So there's kind of an intentionality behind that. Which, if you go to the next slide, you can kind of see some visual examples of that. So in the upper right-hand corner is one of the team-based assemblies that was led by students. And you'll see there's, if you could look carefully, you'll see the students are in front of the group. We did those in the library. You can see the actual pledges themselves, which are a combination of hearts, shields, or stars, and that was the idea of students. And you can also see some the kids making them. The adults did them also, so there were adult pledges up there as well. And you can see on the lower left-hand side the kids actually putting them up themselves. And the lower right-hand side is a different bulletin board, but that has a little bit of that recycling trash kind of concept that I was just talking about. And we put up some, we curated a little bit of the trash ones because we obviously we don't want to put completely too negative things up, but we put up some things that that match. And that was a conversation around, you know, what are language and deeds that we want to make sure we keep doing and things that we want to, you know, stop doing. So. So in terms of the actual activities themselves, these are expectations and requirements that come right from the ADL. And so the biggest thing, which has been really good, because I think this is a culture shift a little bit for the school, is that the students really are the driving forces behind this. They help plan and lead um, the activities themselves. Adults are there. We facilitate. You know, sometimes kids are very ambitious with their ideas, and that's great. And we have to kind of rein them in a little bit or focus them. But in general, the ideas are theirs, and they're the ones that help lead this work. They're also very active participants during the activities. So, as part of this work, you can't just have a guest speaker come in and the kids just sort of passively listen to that person. They have to actually be doing something. Um, and part of that doing is actually having conversations and reflecting about before and after each activity, but also being directly involved, and whether that's actually making something like they sort of did with their pledges, or as we get deeper into this work, I'll have a better idea of what are the different kinds of things we can do. But the kids will lead us to things that they think will resonate the most with students. One thing that we have to be careful about is that we don't do activities that unintentionally alienate students from marginalized groups. So one of the examples that was given in our training was sometimes you do like in the cafeteria, like these mix-up days where kids can just sit with other students. And we just want, like, as part of that, one of the things that they talked a little bit about was that like you might have students explain a little bit about what they're eating for lunch, or what they're a little bit about themselves. But we don't want to put students in a position where they're having to sort of explain, like justify their choices and who they are. So you just have to be careful with some of these events that you're not, it's really more about community and we're all in this together type thing. And the final thing is the activities themselves should address school-based issues. There's a lot happening outside of school, but these are things, you know, one of the priorities, or what are things that are actually happening at the middle school, and that's what we should be addressing. What are our priorities that we need to work on? There is a toolbox. So one of the things you'll notice, they do provide us with some kind of seed ideas for our different activities that we can modify, we can use as is, they've been used in other schools, or we can develop something from scratch as long as it has certain components to it involving students' participation, opportunities for reflection and discussion, etc. So in terms of the involvement, I mentioned that it's a big piece of this is student involvement. So as I said, they planned and led Pledge Week. We asked students to apply for the committee through an application form. So the original steering committee had a couple of students, but we found that we got a lot of interest. So when we put this out there for kids, we had, the meeting that I'm about to go to, a planning meeting, I think we have to do in the cafeteria because it's just too big to do in the think tank. So we have a lot of students that are interested, and we've kind of created subcommittees to help them all be involved in some way. So there is a lot of student interest in helping out and making this initiative work at our school. Yeah, we have 9 subcommittees, and that's that's just a copy of the application form. So we asked students to answer some questions and talk a little bit about why they wanted to do this and what they could contribute. And we had a lot of students, as I mentioned, that actually went through the trouble of filling it out and getting it back to us. So we were excited about that. I think that's the last
I think
slide.
that's the last slide,
Yep.
right? Great job, Jason. I mean, that's, if you really think about it, right? It's the last, you've only been in school about a month. And that's a lot of great work in a very short period of time. And if, I'm sure everyone heard the through line, all student led. I mean, these students are up in front and center in leading this work and thinking about the different ways to engage other kids and their peers in this work. And they obviously are really feeling a sense of commitment to the work and see the value in it if there's so many kids that want to get involved. So kudos to you and your team and really all the hard work that you're doing with this program. I think it's going to really pay off. I'm going to stop share for 1 second because I have a couple things. Just a couple through lines before I open it up for questions that I would just want to call out here. Last meeting, we talked about our panorama survey and our climate survey. We talked about why we were shifting this year into only gathering that data once, which is in the spring, because we've done it twice last school year, and now we really want to focus on some of the action steps and the initiatives and the work throughout the school year before we submit that survey again. And this is one of those examples of why we wanted to provide some time and energy around some of the action steps with kids and with adults to build relationships and really leverage some of that work, and it's not interrupted by a survey, right? The timing of surveys is so important, and so this really lends itself to an explicit example of why it makes sense for this school year, at least, why we're allowing some more time for the principals and the teachers and the students to really lean into initiatives that are grounded in relationship building and the work around school climate and restorative practices that are specific to the needs of the school. So I'll open it to questions for Jason or anyone else that you might want to ask while he's here.
I have a couple of quick questions. Well, can't promise they're going to be quick because this is an important topic and we could probably spend an hour just on this topic alone. But I'll jump in on a couple of things. So I'll just preface it by saying I was part of the interviewing committee that interviewed Jason. And so I only bring that up because this was an area that we discussed during the interviewing of the middle school principal. This was an area that we had concerns with as a Board of Ed. And for that matter too, with Erica Forty, it was something that we asked her about too. So the point is that this is something I think that we as a board and the district at large is very aware that we have this problem. So my questions are, so first of all, thank you, Jason, for stepping into the role pretty recently and just really hitting the ground running. But this was something that we were aware of during the interview process and wanted to make sure that both Jason and Erica were aware of it and we're ready to tackle it on day one. And Tina, you've been a very big supporter of it. I don't want to take anything away from you, but you've been here for several years now, and you've always taken the torch and run with it when asked. My couple of questions are, do you have any sense of, I know that the application process, and you seem to have a lot of buy-in from the students that are interested, but generally speaking, it's probably the students that are not interested or the students that don't see the problem as likely the ones that really need to be brought into the fold. So, and this is just one of my questions, but I'm going to kind of start with that question. How do you reach the students who either don't perceive there is a problem or don't believe there is a problem and therefore they're not actively engaged? How are you going to bridge that gap?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the activities themselves, I think one of the ways that we're going to try to do that is through the activities themselves. I think we have to create a little bit of momentum with this. So I think initially, like the students that are going to step up are the kids that are either are directly affected by this or see an interest in it. One thing that I've noticed at the middle school is I don't think the kids in general are used to talking about this kind of stuff and really thinking about this type of thing. So I think our hope is that the momentum of the activities themselves will generate interest from students that may not may not be thinking about this or may not, initially step up. I think there's a lot of students that kind of fall into that category, to be honest with you. I think there are students that are are very concerned and upset about some of the things that have happened here. But there are definitely students that I think they just don't think about it on a daily basis. I mean, I'll give you a quick example. So as you know, we had a swastika incident a couple weeks ago, and we did, after that, we did these eighth grade restorative circles where we had the kids talk, like we actually talked with them. And we had some groups where there was a lot of talk, and we facilitated with some questions, and then the adults just were quiet. And we did it in small groups, so hopefully the kids would be more comfortable. But there were other students that really had nothing to say at this point. But I do think like my general message to the staff is the more we do it's like it gets some momentum. It's like a flywheel. The more we do it and the more practice kids have talking about it, thinking about it, being involved, the more we're going to create energy among people that either don't feel comfortable or they're just kind of on the outside and haven't really thought about this. So I guess that's a long way of saying, yep.
Could I add something too, Jason? Just some
Yeah.
clarifying questions. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a whole school initiative and program, right? And
It
so, there's no opting out, right?
There's
So,
no opting out.
so some students may not be ready to engage in conversation, but all students, all staff are participating in the activities that Jason talked about today, right? And all students and all staff, and I just saw the picture and I'm just assuming majority, looks like 90 to 95% of staff and students signed the pledge. Is that true?
Yeah,
Are they
all students, there's no
No.
opt-outs, right?
Right.
So all students, yes. I didn't check for every staff, but there's a lot of staff ones up there and I saw them doing it as I was walking around. So I would say most staff, if not all. I think the energy around this are the quality of the activities, right? I think if students see value in the activities themselves and it reaches them, it intrigues them on an intellectual level and an emotional level, that's where you're going to build that momentum that I was referring to. And I think that's what we're going to attempt to do in the different activities that we're doing. So yeah, I think Tina, to your point, everyone's being reached on some level, but the actual planning is a small amount of students. But we did open that up to everybody when we did it. And I don't know all the kids really well yet. So there may be people in that group even that wouldn't normally wouldn't normally participate in something like this. So I don't know the kids well enough to know the makeup of who's actually on the team. So.
And my point is just that, it is becoming more woven into the culture and the fabric of Weston Middle School, right? Not everybody's going to engage in a conversation yet, and potentially over time as adults even. I would venture to say that even adults may have difficult times engaging in certain conversations around certain topics. And so setting up the parameters and structures to help with some of the opportunities to be vulnerable, to have open dialogue in a safe, supportive environment is something I feel like is also the work of restorative practices. It's the work of No Place for Hate. It's the work of our climate systems and structures in the district that you're right, Jason, and we're really just starting and sinking our teeth and rolling up our sleeves with some of these really explicit opportunities that the more we do it, the more people will know that, we believe in this work and these are safe environments for people to have conversations around.
My general answer is it's a process. And I'll give you just a quick example. So when we did these restorative circles with eighth graders, the eighth grade teachers were really nervous about that. And one of the things they'll say to me, have said to me is, this is going to feel very different for the kids. They're not used to this. This is a culture shift, that they've said that. And I was like, all right, I understand, but let's just dive in and do it. Let's see what happens. Right. And if you talk to the eighth grade teachers, I would say most of them walked out of that very much pleasantly surprised at how it went, what the kids had to say, and just the process itself. So that kind of just feeds this idea that I think we just need to practice doing this work a lot before it, and you'll get more people on board as we go.
Sorry, I also think one of the components of the work that's really important, and while No Place for Hate is a program, the activities are addressing school-based issues, which then become really meaningful and applicable to kids, and it sort of draws them in. So as Jason described, as time passes on and it catches momentum and the kids start to realize this just isn't something outside that's separate from their own experiences in their own school, but really related to what's going on within their school, more and more kids will start to actively engage as opposed to just participate.
Jason, couple of things. I've heard eighth grade mentioned 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
But I know this is a school-wide initiative, but my question
it
is
is. Yeah.
more, do you perceive the problem to be mostly in the eighth grade or, and let me just preface the question with 2 things. One of the things I've been a big advocate for since at least 3 or 4 years I've been on the Board of Ed is I feel as a district, we don't do enough for Holocaust remembrance at the lower grade levels. And there's age appropriate books starting in kindergarten, right? I'm a Jewish parent. Both of my children are on a Jewish track. My older son was bar mitzvahed. My younger son will be bar mitzvahed. So they've been experienced. There's great appropriate books. So my point or my question is, we need to do more, I believe, starting at an age appropriate level, which can be literally first or second grade, but certainly at WIS, I think the fifth graders should be exposed to a Holocaust remembrance event. I know, then they go up to the middle school, right? And the middle school, for a whole host of reasons, right? Difficult age in general for these kids. They're very impulsive, their bodies are changing. So the basis of my question is, you mentioned eighth grade a lot. I understand this is a whole school initiative, but what types of things, and I'm going to throw the plug in there like I do every year for Holocaust remembrance, we have to do more. We have to start educating our kids at a young age. Are we prepared? What are we doing in the sixth and seventh and eighth grade levels, not just to say the behavior won't be tolerated, but to educate the kids about it's just wrong. And we can't change what happens in your home and we can't change what you're thinking, but we can say your behavior or your actions will not be tolerated. So what are we doing for the sixth and seventh graders? And then at some point when it's right and we have somebody from WIS available, but tell me about what we're doing for the sixth and seventh graders.
Well, so can I just intervene for just a second? So there's a couple things, as you probably know, David, right, layered into this. One is the No Place for Hate initiative is not just about, honoring or recognizing the Holocaust on Holocaust Remembrance Day, right? And that's a whole separate thing. No Place for Hate is about all hate. So to your point about, there's a lot of different layers of hate-based conduct that is embedded in this work around climate. While in Weston, I know that some of the incidences have been more elevated around the swastika incident since last year. We also know as leaders in these buildings, all the buildings across the district, it's not just one form of hate. It's all forms of hate that we don't tolerate and we don't allow and accept in our schools. So that's one piece. The other piece, to your point and your question about how are we educating students around something that is hate-based incidents such as the Holocaust Remembrance Day, we, as you know, 2 years ago, we expanded on our Holocaust Remembrance Day events down to sixth grade because curricular-wise, the standards for the Holocaust Remembrance Day is actually more connected to eighth grade. We've expanded that down to sixth and seventh grade, so we involve and teach explicit lessons off curriculum in January during the Holocaust Remembrance when it actually occurs. And that has evolved and is increasingly growing over the years. We still have ongoing dialogue and maybe difference of philosophy around the developmental appropriateness of whether or not we should be doing something at the lower grades, as you said, even as low and early as kindergarten. We'd be happy to continue some of that dialogue, but for the purpose of the topic today, if we could stay on the No Place for Hate questions, that would be great, because we still have to really focus on the Sandhook Promise Anonymous reporting system. And I want to make sure we see that connection today, because that is some of the work that evolved out of last year's anti-Semitism working groups and working committees that happened. And I want to make sure we just give some time to that. So could we maybe pop a
Yep.
bubble in that one for now, David? Because we need to circle back to
Yeah,
it. We'll
definitely.
have
I
time.
I
We'll have
just
time
wanted
to
to say
talk
real
about it.
two quick. Yeah, just two quick things. It is definitely a grade 6, 7, and 8 initiative. The reason why I mentioned grade 8 for the restorative circles, there was two reasons why we did it with grade 8. Number one, our feeling was they're the leaders of the school, and we really want their buy-in in terms of and their ability to even show some level of mentorship to the 6th and 7th graders. We also thought that it happened in an 8th grade bathroom, so we also had a sense that the person that did this might have been an 8th grader. That was the other rationale behind doing that. So there's no reason why we couldn't do those kinds of things with 6th and 7th graders, and we very well could, right? In terms of No Place for Hate, one of the events, there's even one of the slides even has in the toolkit. I mean, we have to decide like what are the themes that we're going to pursue this year for these 3 different events. And an option is anti-Semitism, right? So that would be something through No Place for Hate where we'd have to go. I haven't read the lesson plans in the toolbox yet for anti-Semitism, but that's kind of the work that we're going to be doing the next few weeks. And that very well could be our first one, because if you talk about school-based issues, that is a school-based issue, right? That is something that we're working with directly. So
Yeah.
that is
So we'll
through No
do
Place for Hate. That
some,
is one way to address it. So
we'll do some follow-ups for sure. This is not going to be the last conversation we have around this. And David, as you know, probably last year, when Jason mentioned the steering committee that went to training last year and the group, we included the intermediate school in that training as well. We had leadership and representation from the intermediate school to at least engage in an awareness of what No Place for Hate was, so that we could determine the next steps if we wanted to bring down No Place for Hate to the intermediate school. So we'll do some more follow-ups on that as the year goes on, and I'm sure Jason will be happy to come back on and talk about some of that, the specific lessons that we've
definitely.
engaged. Lisa, do you have any questions for Jason?
No, I'm just thrilled that you're integrating it so well into the curriculum, into the culture of the school. I really like the student-based work and the engagement that the students have had in that curriculum. I think that it sounds like that the changes that you want to accomplish are going to happen, especially because it's so student-centered. So kudos, and I hope to hear really more great things going on.
And if I could just tie in one more piece of this work before we switch over to the Sandhook Promise Anonymous reporting system. Jason is now part of our working committee for curriculum that came out of the anti-Semitism plan from last school year. Part of that work of that subcommittee is to start creating a crosswalk around specific lessons related to anti-hate based lessons. And so we're going to be zooming in on 7th grade specifically, so that we can tie in and see where all of the aspects of anti-hate, anti-Semitism educational experiences tie into the curriculum throughout in the district in 7th grade specifically. And then we're going to start growing and expanding out from there, up and down. So that work is started. We have Mothers in Blue representation on there. We have teachers on there. We have admin leaders on there as well. And so we started that work at the end of the school year, but it is a large undertaking. And so just wanted to give you an update, because it will be connected to some of the No Place for Hate curriculum that is that Jason's speaking about today. Sound good? All right, I'm going to ask that we switch to the next agenda item. Jason, did you want to say one more thing on anything before we move on?
I just wanted to say thank you. It's exciting work. I'm really excited to see where it goes. Is it okay, Eric and Tina? I'm going to actually go to the planning meeting right now, if that's okay, for No
Yeah,
Place for
we'll
Hate.
take
We're
it from
about to
here.
do-
I know that you've got, we know the logistics on the rollout of the anonymous reporting system because this work
We're
that you're
doing that
doing
today
there
too,
is
yeah.
is
Yeah.
connected to that as well. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining
Okay.
us, Jason. Appreciate it.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
have a good
Jason.
day, everybody.
So we're
Thanks.
going to transition to the second topic today, which is nothing new. Last year, out of, as I mentioned, Deb Lowe, in her plan around the working committees for combating anti-Semitism, her committee was the Accountability Committee. And out of that work, the Board of Education and in partnership with Jim Wiltsey, our Director of Security, and Dan DeVito, our Director of IT, and the members of that working accountability committee explored and researched different anonymous reporting tools. What evolved out of that committee was that we were able to adopt the Sandy Hook Promise anonymous reporting system, and the Board of Education approved that we adopt that tool. This is that was the last time that we kind of spoke about that tool. And now, if you read Superintendent Forty's newsletter and a notification that came out at the district level, we are now officially adopting that tool and implementing that tool this week, actually, with our secondary students and across the district with families and teachers. So I just wanted to take this opportunity, given that we have a full audience, there's a lot of community members that are either watching or watch it later, this conversation. But given the timing, it was important for us to rinse and repeat some of this so that we are all fully aware of what is actually happening as we transition and roll out this tool. So I'm going to, give me 1 second, I'm going to pull up the presentation. Dan DeVito is going to lead us through that as he did in the past. And also I want to read the community letter that Erica Forty put out to the community, just as a way to kind of set the stage and make sure everybody's on the same page before Dan actually goes through the reporting system tool and we open it up to any additional questions. I don't know why I cannot toggle in Zoom faster than I used to be able to. Give me 1 second. Share. Share this screen. Ready, go. Yes, can you see it? And slideshow. Yes? Thumbs up?
There we go.
Okay. So Superintendent Forty sent out a newsletter notification in partnership with our Chief of Police, Chief Henyon, the two principals, Principal Bluestein at the middle school, Principal Canetta at the high school, Superintendent Forty, and Director of Security and Safety, Jim Wiltsey. And in her letter, just to set the stage, as part of our ongoing commitment to fostering a safe and supportive learning environment, we are pleased to announce the launch of the Say Something Anonymous reporting system at Weston Middle School and Weston High School. Developed by the nonprofit organization Sandy Hook Promise, this system empowers students, staff, and families to share concerns confidentially, allowing us to take proactive steps to protect the well-being of our entire community. At the heart of our work is our commitment to building strong, trusting relationships with students and families. We want every student to feel comfortable reaching out to a trusted adult in the school whenever they have a concern about their own safety or the well-being of others. These direct conversations often provide the clearest and most actionable information, and they remain the best way for us to respond quickly and effectively. At the same time, we understand that there may be times when someone feels nervous or unsure about speaking up in person. The Say Something anonymous reporting system provides an additional option for those situations, ensuring that important information can still be shared even anonymously. In this way, every student and family has a voice in keeping our schools safe. And so, Dan, I'm going to pass it over to you because he also has been leading a lot of this work to help the district adopt this tool. There's a lot of back end setting up. And so this is the first week that we'll be rolling it out with students and staff throughout the district. And he's going to go through, again, I know he also did this at the Board of Education meeting, but we thought it was important, given the timing and given that this is the first week of rolling this out and training our students, that it was important for us to review what this reporting tool is, what are some of those key features, and make sure that everybody is aware of the importance of this tool. And if there's any questions from the board, this would be that opportunity. So Dan, if you don't mind.
Sure, thanks, Dr. Henkel. So we are moving forward with Sandy Hook Say Something anonymous reporting system. We've been working on getting everything set up for a few months now, and we're in the final week of setup working with the students. We've been working in partnership with the Weston Police Department. Jim and I have been getting everything set up on the back end, and we trained the administrators during the admin retreat on how it works. And so we just wanted to go over a little bit how the anonymous reporting system works. So if you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So what really piqued our interest with the Say Something anonymous reporting system is that all tips are routed to a nationally accredited crisis center where the tipster works in real time with a certified counselor to get as much information to vet and triage and determine what the next steps are. There are 3 ways to submit a tip. They can either use a mobile app from their phone. There's a website link, which once we officially go live, you will see on our westonps.org website. And there's also a hotline that people can call. When a person goes to submit a tip, there are 30 different tip types to choose from. The top tip types are cyberbullying, drug use, self-harm, suicide, planned school attack, and harassment, intimidation. In doing a lot of research on this, multiple places have shown that providing tip types is the best way for them to select, but there is also an other option that they can choose from when they go to enter in a tip. So the process starts, they vet and triage. So when a tipster enters a tip, it then goes to the crisis center, and they start working with a counselor to properly vet and triage exactly what the tip is. They engage in an anonymous dialogue with them to try to get as much information. At that point, they then categorize the tip, and then they will deliver it to the district based on parameters that they've set up as to who gets notified. And then it's properly handed off to the district, but conversations can go back and forth between the district and the crisis center and the counselor to get as much information or to get more information as it's needed. So, and all of this is done in real time, which is really nice. There are other products that use algorithms and AI, but the fact that this has an actual certified counselor working in the background with the tipster is what really sets this apart from the other products. So processing a tip, you can see the counselor vets and triages it. They acknowledge the tip, they review all the details, and then they engage in anonymous chat with the tipster to gather as much information as they possibly can. From that point, they then deliver the tip. And so you can see we have kind of this hierarchy of how tips are delivered. So it goes from the tipster to the crisis center. They vet, triage, categorize, and deliver it. So for non-life safety tips, those are delivered directly to the school team, and those will be responded to during normal business hours. For life safety tips, the school team is notified, the district team, and the Weston Police Department dispatch is notified at the same time. And they make it a point that they will continue to contact until they have reached somebody. They know when it comes to life safety, the first point of contact should always be the dispatch team, Weston Police Department dispatch, and then it moves down to district and the school team for any other information that we need to give the police department at that time. There are special delivery scenarios, but the 2 biggest things are really non-life safety and life safety tips. They have a lot of school districts who have already signed up for the Sandy Hook Promise. So from their law of averages, basically they just say, there would be, if there was an enrollment of 500 students, 14 tips would be submitted during the daytime, 2 of them would be life safety, 12 non-life safety, 6 would be submitted during the nighttime, 5 non-life safety, and 1 life safety. So again, that's the law of averages. That could be different for us. They did say that there's usually a large uptick when you first roll out the product because people are using the tip line, and then it kind of levels off over the first few months of use. One of the great things about the Sandy Hook Promise is they have a ton of online materials and lesson plans for students. They have a bunch of information for parents and educators and for adult users. There's an amazing self-guided training that we had staff use. The middle school and the high school over the next few days are going to be using the training video accessed via the Digital Learning Center. And then we have materials that we will be sending out to parents, as well as in an introductory email that was sent out to families last week. And it's constantly updated. And although we're using, the anonymous reporting system is specific to grades 6 through 12, they do have a lot of materials for younger students, specifically on creating a place of trust with students so they have a trusted adult that they could speak to. So it's a really good K through 12 product that we really, really appreciate all the information they have, and they're constantly taking feedback and adding more and more materials to it. You see that we have a bunch of school awareness materials that we'll be hanging up. They sent us a bunch of these posters that we'll be putting out there, nice QR codes to make it easy for people to just take a screenshot and download the app. I think that's also part of the process with the training that the students will be getting over the next few days. So we're really trying to market this to show that, this is there, this is available, this is a 24/7 tool. And, we really are going to try to push the use of this as much as possible, so students could feel comfortable in a situation that they want to report something anonymously, they can using this product. And just to go over a little bit more, they have a bunch of different lesson plans and activities. It can be, we're doing it via assembly, but they can also do it as part of an advisory. And so the younger content is called Start With Hello and Say Something. And then it goes up to the Say Something ARS, the anonymous reporting training on how to use the system itself. The system itself is incredibly easy to use. They want to make it as simple as possible. They're not looking to confuse anybody. They want somebody feeling at ease on how to use the product and how to report a tip. The last thing they want to see is putting something out there that's so confusing that the tipster says, "I'll forget it." That's why, looking at it, it's just extremely easy to use. And these lesson plans are they're self-guided, and the teachers don't have the pressure to do anything. There's videos that they show in the materials that they give the students. And finally, just some follow-up questions that we had, because we had a lot of conversations with Sandy Hook Promise before we decided to move forward with them. One of them was we discussed false reports and pranks. They said about 4% of all tips are considered false and pranks, and they take care of it on their end. And that's what the special delivery is when they deliver to us, hey, there was a false or there was a prank called, and that's sent to us more for informational purposes only. So one of the things that when they hand everything off to the district, they also include all chat transcripts, any pictures redacted if the pictures need to be redacted as part of the chat. But so we get 100% of the information that the crisis counselors received, we receive as a district. So it's a really robust product. Jim and I have talked to many school districts about the use of it. It's used nationally. Actually, it's used globally now. And, everyone has wonderful things to say about it. It's from a setup perspective, it wasn't too crazy to set up. And we really appreciate the partnership that we can have with the Weston PD. So life safety calls can go directly to dispatch. And so that is a very, very important piece to us, is that regardless if it's on the weekend, if it's at 2 a.m, Sandy Hook Promise knows who to contact to contact dispatch, so they know somebody is available 24/7. So that's basically just a brief overview of the Say Something anonymous reporting system. If anybody has any questions, Jim and I will be happy to answer any.
Thanks, Dan. That was amazing. Just as a follow-up, and I'm not sure if you heard Dan say this, this week is the initial rollout with our students in middle school and the high school. The assembly actually for the middle school is today, and the high school students is tomorrow. They are doing the assembly structure in group format. They're going to be using some of the lessons and videos that are provided by Sandy Hook Promise to do the initial rollout. And then, as Dan mentioned, they're going to be reviewing through their advisory. They have PACT at the high school and Connect at the middle school through their small group advisory opportunities to revisit some of the lessons so that there's a constant thread and through line of reminding kids on how to use it, knowing what happens when they officially put an anonymous tip in, because I think a component of this is ensuring and feeling having trust that this is anonymous, especially for students at the secondary level. So showing kids what it looks like when they enter it in and confirming that it is anonymous so that they could feel safe in reporting whatever tip that they have regarding whatever's happening in their life or in their school environment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was great. I know that this was a long time coming. I know since I've been here 4 years, we've been talking about this since I started when I first arrived, Dan. I don't know if we've been talking about it a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
But it's really exciting that this is finally coming to fruition and maybe will help us with some other school climate initiative and issues that were, that are evolving over the course of the year. So Jim, did you want to add anything either just about even the partnership with Chief Henyon and conversations that you've had? Because this is really exciting that, this is really a community partnership in this work, and that we're all working on this together, because some of the, as you heard, all of us are going to get the information, and it's great that because we're so small, we're able to really partner and have conversations with each other so that we can support families and kids through whatever situation that they may be involved in.
Just so to piggyback off of that, Chief and the police department and the SROs have fully embraced the platform. I think the timing of it is perfect because it's going to provide an outlet for the curriculum that's being shared with No Place for Hate. So it's going to give those kids another outlet if they don't feel comfortable talking in the circles that Jason's doing up there. So I think the timing is going to be perfect. It's going to be a great tool to use. It's going to be a great platform for the district.
Great. Lisa, David, you guys have questions?
I just have a couple comments. I think it was a great platform. Being that the kids in the high school no longer are carrying cell phones around, the QR code is probably not effective, but that's a little bit of a joke, but I think it's great that we don't have the kids with the ability to take the QR code. But really, my question is about disseminating this information. So I believe all high school kids have an active email address.
Yep.
So is there a plan to email out some sort of notification to all of the high schoolers?
Yeah, so part of they're going over with I think you said, Tina, it's tomorrow. All students at the high school, they're doing training with them as part of it. So all students have to be trained before we can even roll it out. So they will be getting the information that way, and then we could always send out more information to the students via email as to, hey, as a reminder, you can download the app this way. You could call the number. Here's the number. And there's a link on our website for you to also do a tip via the web too.
So
we can send
we
follow-up emails after the meetings.
Yeah, because I think what we want to do is we want to capture these kids and email them multiple times, right? Because it's top of mind only when it's top of the inbox for them, right? And that's really going to be, so I would just like, the effectiveness, right, is all about reaching the people. And we all know from Panorama, people they get inundated with things to do and then they don't get it done, right? So I would just, for the effectiveness, I think we should, for the high schoolers, we should make sure we email them at least, I think, 2 or 3 times, whatever the appropriate would be, in 2-week intervals, or maybe you guys can determine that. But I think we should email the high school kids with a link to download the app and set it up. I think also the parents should receive a similar email. I did, as a parent, receive the email about the new tool, but multiple times. Email me as a parent so that I can encourage my child to put it on the phone, but also potentially have the conversation with my child that you should feel comfortable reporting something that might not feel natural to you. So I think the parent engagement piece, and the only way to get that is to message them multiple times over the span of 4, 6, 8 weeks. I'm sure somebody has some marketing, chops as to how to get somebody, you got to say it 3 times. I know that, and you got to do it in under 30 seconds. But then
Yeah.
the last question I have is, will we be able to get some anonymous data reported back to us quarterly, annually, semi-annually, just so we have a sense of, I think it would inform us of 2 things. Is the system being used? But it also helps us from a panorama perspective to potentially bring out that there are things going on among the student base that we're not aware of, that this system's capturing, right? If we have a lot of use of this system, that tells us something. If we don't have a lot of use, that doesn't necessarily tell us everything's great. It could be the students don't know about it, or they don't feel comfortable. So will we as a board be able to hear and then share with the community some anonymous statistics at certain intervals so that parents know it's being used, it's not being used, the success of this?
I don't see why, we could put that in, could be part of a Board of Ed meeting. That could also, Jim could report on those numbers as part of the safety and security meeting subcommittee. They do have report tools, so we can get those types of statistics like, hey, we got X number of bullying tips, we got X number of hate-based tips, and those can easily be reported.
Yeah, I think it does 2 things. It helps inform the district at large, the board, the administrators, about, is this program being used? And it helps inform all those same folks about, do we have a problem that maybe we're not even aware of? So I think the anonymous statistics would be helpful to hear, either semi-annually, quarterly, whatever it would be. And yeah, I agree. I think, Dan, you're right. The safety committee probably is a good place just to kind of report out on that, maybe quarterly, Jim, if that works for you. But I think, yeah, so it'd be just great to hear. And like I said, I want to make sure that we message out to the community, the students and the parents, multiple times so that this really gets on their radar, because it would be a shame to invest all this time and effort into a great tool that people don't know is out there.
Yeah.
Even if we say, well, we messaged you, it's hard. You've
Yeah.
got to message people when it's top of mind for them.
Yeah.
And the only way
Yeah,
to
I
do
know
that
I
is-
could see Erica's wheels turning too. We are always looking at how to send our message and be consistent with our message, and also rinse and repeat. It's my favorite tagline, right? And we know that we have our weekly updates that our principals do. We know that we have our website, and then we have our district level newsletters monthly. So I guess one of my questions to your point, David, is where do we have a standing access to this anonymous reporting system, whether it's a link on the website and a QR code on a website, embedding it in with our week aheads, with our principal week ahead, so that parents are consistently notified, and maybe a footer or something at the bottom of those repeated newsletters, just as a standing statement or a way to access that report. And I'm repeating this because I wrote it all down so that I didn't forget. And then also, how do we consistently provide access for students, knowing that maybe cell phones are not necessarily easily accessible during the day, but is there a tab, like an app, in their ClassLink? Because all students have access to their devices. So if they needed to access it quickly, where would that be? It would be located in their dashboard on ClassLink, where all of their apps are, so they can just easily click on it during the school day. Or when they do have access to their phones, maybe we, during the assembly, or if we do a repeated assembly, we let them take out their phones, especially at the high school level, to download the app, just so that they have it on their phones, and then the devices go away. And at least we know that they're all ready to go if they need it, and they can easily access it. So I hear that. It's a good point.
Yep, and
Yeah,
we
I think
could
actually
easily
you hit
put
the-
the, well, I'm sorry, we could easily put the form, the link to the form in the student's class link. That's very easy to do. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Tina, you also hit the nail on the head. If there's going to be assemblies or some sort of like onboarding type of thing with this event, you put up on the screen the QR code and you have all the kids. You set aside during the assembly. All right, now everyone grab your phones. Yes, you're allowed to take your phones out. Grab your phones, grab the QR code and sign up now, right? And or get the app now. So I think if there's a couple of those opportunities too, because we just want to have the kids have access to the app and the tool, because when they need it, that's probably the wrong time for them
Right.
to start looking for that app. So, but
Yeah,
I think
no,
the
makes
assembly,
sense.
I think the assembly
think-
idea is a great idea too, with a big fat QR code that can be taken from a distance. The
Yeah.
call to action.
Yes.
I think the posters will also help with the top of mind point that you pointed out, David, as well as the possibility of Dan getting, the graphics circulating on the TVs where they have the schedules posted throughout the high school, so that, it's just a visual and a reminder, top of mind, because the app might be on the third page of their phone. And they have to scroll over, so they're not seeing it all the time. So just the icons and the visuals through the posters and the TVs might also help with the top of mind.
When can kids grab so when they're leaving the high school, can they grab their phone and have it out as they're going from the lobby to the exterior of the building, or is it not till they physically leave the building?
Exterior only. So when
So
they
outside
leave
the
the
building.
building, they can take it out of their bags. They're not supposed
Okay.
to have it in their pockets or anywhere on them during the day when they enter the building. When they exit the building, they can take it out.
Okay, maybe going crazy here, but I think that we want to have kids have access to this. A couple of long signs just on the left and right flanking the exit of the high school that
Mhm.
says on your way out
Yeah.
with the QR code, right? So
Yeah, they gave us part of their materials is tons of digital images for different poster sizes that we could use a poster printer and print out, and we could hang out, out in the outside, something easy for them to then take the snapshot when they have their phones out.
Yeah, I mean, we have the no place for hate signs. I'm sorry, not place for hate. Weston is a no place for hate district, right? The orange and blue ones that we put out. So could put it right there, side by side. So this is great. Any other questions, David or Lisa? Thank you, Dan, for putting that together and reminding everyone about this tool. Again, this is not one of those things that we're just going to say it once and forget it. This is going to be an ongoing dialogue and discussion. And to your points about the reports and the stats, as we roll out our district improvement plan and we talk about different ways of gathering evidence towards our action steps and our goals, this could be one of those reports that we report out on mid-year or at the end of the year at least, in multiple ways, right? Not only in the subcommittee, but then maybe at the district level as well, because it is important. And as you said, we put so much time and energy on the back end of setting this up and rolling it out. It's important to know how this is benefiting the district as a whole. So that concludes our agenda for today. I'm going to close up since we're at 10:41, a little bit over, so I apologize for that. If anyone wants to add anything or ask any other questions, our team is done.
anything from Lisa?
No, it's great informative session. It sounds like some really wonderful things are happening. I especially appreciate the new app that's coming in. I mean, we had some real community issues, and they presented it at the Board of Ed meeting, and within 6 months, we're here. And I think it's great, and the community also needs to hear about it. So maybe when it goes home in the newsletter and it's an app for them, they'll realize that, we listen and things get done.
Okay. I think this was a really important two topics that we covered. I'm grateful for everyone who attended and added to it. And I think that we are in a really good place or a good trajectory. And with that said, if there's no other comment, it is 10:43 a.m. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All right. Thank you,
And
everyone.
have a great week.
We'll see you Monday, the 20th, regular Board of Ed meeting.
See you later.